Welcome to San Mateo County Today. Conversations with government leaders throughout San Mateo County. Here's your host, Mark Simon.
Coming up on San Mateo County Today, Belmont and Brisbane are two of the smaller cities in San Mateo County, but they both have big plans, and we're going to talk to Belmont Mayor Eric Reed and Brisbane Mayor Cliff Lentz about them. We're joined today by Belmont Mayor Eric Reed in his first term as mayor.
Thanks for having me.
And in your first term in office, right?
That's right.
Yeah, welcome. You're still a rookie. I guess we consider you maybe you're in your junior year. It's hard to know.
Yeah, I'm in my junior year. I ran for office in 2011 after 5 years on the Planning Commission, came 11 votes short of winning.
Oh, gee.
And so in 2013, I said, well, second time's got to be the charm.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky enough to be elected in 2013.
I know that there are so many complicated issues facing the peninsula. Belmont's not exempt from them. The one that everybody seems to be, there are two that everybody's talking about. One is traffic and one is housing. And I think they're pretty much linked because a lot of the housing that's in this area, people who work in this area can't afford it. So
that's right.
How much of a concern is that for you, and what can Belmont do about it? How can Belmont help?
So that's a great question. My parents came here in the early 60s from the mid-Atlantic, and my father was beginning his career as a public school teacher, and my mother was a lab technician at Mills Hospital. And they managed to raise two boys and buy a house in San Mateo. Today, those two, with their salaries, would not be able to afford a home on the peninsula. And you really have to ask yourself, do we want to be a collection of cities up and down from San Francisco to Santa Clara where only rich people can live?
Yeah, a wealthy enclave, as it were. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And not everyone is going to work in high tech, not everyone is going to work in biotech. We need to be able to have housing where policemen, firefighters, lab technicians, public school teachers, baristas at coffee shops can all afford to rent or buy a home, and we need to make that a reality. I was reading the other day that we added roughly in the neighborhood of 55,000 jobs in San Mateo County in the recent years and 2,000 housing units.
Yep, I've seen the same statistics. So in Belmont, I would think what that means is infill and El Camino and maybe the area around El Camino. Is that something you're looking at in Belmont? What you can do to allow, I've heard about these really small, basically one-room homes that can go in people's backyards. There's a lot of options.
Yes. So when you think of Belmont, there are three things to keep in mind. One is open space. A lot of open space in Belmont, more than other cities on the peninsula. And that will remain open space in my preferred vision of the future. Two, residential neighborhoods that were built in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, they should be able to remodel. Those houses were built, some of them, in a different era when the needs of families were different, and we need to make it easier for those families to remodel.
Let's stay focused on that for a second, because that was a critical issue for you when you ran, was Belmont had quite a reputation for making it extremely difficult for anybody to do anything significant to a home they already owned.
That's right, all under the notion that if you restricted development, you could maintain Belmont's small town charm. And I understand the notion that you want to maintain Belmont as a charming small town, but you can still allow families to remodel their home more easily without destroying that charm. I'll give you an example of one of our older regulations that I would like to see changed. That is an older home built in the 40s with a little one-car garage. If you want to add a certain amount of square footage, as a homeowner, you have to convert that to a two-car garage. And often what that means with some of these narrow lots is that the entire front of the lot looks like a large garage. Mm-hmm. And you've ripped into your living room or your kitchen in order to create that two-car garage. And the reality is that 95% of San Mateo County households have 3 or fewer cars. So requiring what Belmont did, 4 parking spots, 2 outside, 2 inside, it was overkill. And what it did is it created a condition where a lot of projects didn't get done.
Would you think that was really the intent, was not to really have those projects not take place?
I think the intent was, in the very beginning, let's restrict development because they want to build homes on this beautiful open space. And over time, that message of protecting open space became contaminated, if you will, with all development is bad. And all development bad is not the message that we should be sending to the people who live in Belmont. Protecting open space, allowing reasonable remodeling in the neighborhoods, and then building multifamily housing with businesses mixed in along the transit corridor. Those are the three components to a successful Belmont.
So building along the transit corridor, I know it's in the very earliest stages, but there's a lot of talk about what sort of city center can be made for Belmont, which really never had one, and that was also purposeful. It was considered part of the city's unique character, that there wasn't a downtown per se. There was certainly Carlmont Village, and there was that Safeway that came in on El Camino, but you're looking at something with a substantially different vision now, aren't you?
That's right. So it's difficult to look at our neighboring cities and their success with their downtown. San Mateo, for example, Redwood City, anchored with movie theaters. San Carlos and Burlingame, anchored with these eclectic mix of shops. To have Belmont really not participate in that is difficult to see. It starts with building a downtown around business mixed together with housing. There needs to be a project, and it's called Firehouse Square. I believe strongly that a Firehouse Square project that mixes housing and business together, it's multi-use, is the way to go. You generate more foot traffic downtown. That breeds retail success, and that breeds a core that's self-sustaining downtown.
Well, and as a younger generation comes along, it seems like increasingly that's the kind of lifestyle they want. When they're home, they want to be able to walk to certain services, to be able to have a lifestyle that's sort of self-contained, doesn't require them to get into a car.
That's right. As a kid, I watched downtown San Mateo disappear as a thriving business entity, and in its place was a thriving Hillsdale Mall. You could almost see the energy flow from downtown San Mateo to Hillsdale Mall. And I grew up near Hillsdale Mall, watched it happen. What you're seeing now is a reverse. I don't want to say that the mall system is dying, but people want a downtown. They want to be able to live in a nice, comfortable place. They want to have underground parking that's easily accessible. And they want to be able to go out, walk their dog. They want to be able to go to the shops. They want to be able to go and have a cup of coffee. They want to be able to go and go to a restaurant, all within walking distance of their home. And in fact, many of them want to be able to walk to the train and hop on the train and go into San Francisco, South San Francisco, San Jose for work. And generating development up and down that El Camino Real corridor, that's the way to do it. Not only to build a downtown, but to build a thriving mobile workforce.
Now what that does mean is that Belmont's going to change. And based on what you were saying before, it sounds like it's going to change anyway. The struggle to maintain the way Belmont was 25 years ago, is, I guess, a question of whether or not you're going to let it happen to you or you're going to make it happen.
So that's a very good point. I was at the senior center luncheon giving a talk the other day, and my point was the pressure that's out there on housing and jobs, that's out there. Whether you like it or not, it exists. This is a question of whether you want to manage the future or have it run over you. Do we want to impact the future, or do we want to have it impact us? And I would much rather say our three pillars for the development of Belmont involve leaving open space open, allowing neighborhoods to remodel, and building along the transit corridor. That, in my mind, those are three solid pillars that will allow us to control how Belmont manages the future rather than having something happen to us.
There are two other things going on that are adjunct to this. One is hotels, the other is billboards. Both of those are means by which revenue can be generated.
That's right.
I assume also in sync with managing some of the things that are coming your way.
That's right. So Belmont is not unique. Belmont is fortunate because it is smack dab between San Francisco and San Jose and near a thriving high-tech hub in Redwood Shores. And the demand for hotel rooms up and down the peninsula is huge, and the demand in Redwood Shores is huge. So Belmont is planning on having 2 new hotels built along the 101 corridor, right? In addition, the city is working to get an electronic billboard from a large, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say, Clear Channel, wants to build a billboard there. Bottom line is, through transit occupancy taxes and income from the electronic billboard, the city will take home about $1.5 million for its general fund for areas along Highway 101 that are poorly used now, and all of the old-fashioned paper billboards along El Camino Real will be removed, and that will beautify the entire stretch in Belmont. So
Belmont's changing. Tell us sort of what it is. I mean, you talked about the 3 pillars, but what about a sort of almost an esoteric level? What is it you want to make sure Belmont retains? You know, every city thinks they're different.
Right.
And if you're driving around and you don't really know the difference, they all look the same to you. So what is different about Belmont that you think you really have to work hard to hold on to?
So one of the gems in Belmont is its vast open space. It's one of the few cities on the peninsula that has enormous amounts of open space that are available and open to the public to hike and walk. And that, in my mind, should be maintained. Once something is built, it never goes away. That is one of the huge draws in Belmont. There's 3 big draws. Why move to Belmont? There's the natural beauty. There's the proximity of great employers in San Francisco, San Jose, and everywhere in between. Right? And then there's just a wonderful school district. So those 3 things together, natural beauty, proximity to employers, and great school district, that is what makes Belmont a wonderful place to be. One thing we have that other cities don't is all that open space, all that wonderful open space that's available for people to use and enjoy.
Belmont Mayor Eric Reed, thank you for being on San Mateo County today.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. You're good?
Yeah, you did good.
All right.
Welcome back to San Mateo County. Today we're joined now by the Mayor of Brisbane, Cliff Lentz. Clint, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Brisbane, it's a little town that everybody kind of loves because it's got windy streets. It's still got a very much of a rural atmosphere. There's huge amounts of pressure on every city on the peninsula to change, to meet the demand for housing. You and I are on a housing task force together. What are you doing in Brisbane to try and help with the housing problem, and what are you doing to preserve that unique qualities that everybody loves about Brisbane?
Sure. Well, you're right, Mark. It is a balance. You know, people move to Brisbane for a reason. You know, they love that small town character, and that's something that all council members, you know, try to uphold and make sure that when we're doing smart land use policy, we keep that in mind. But we also know that we have to provide our fair share of housing. Mm-hmm. And so every 7 years, the state requires all cities to provide their fair share, and we're no different. But one of the things that we've decided to do in Brisbane, instead of just allocating and then zoning, we have decided to do smart land use planning with the entryway to our city. And so one of the projects that we're working on right now that I'm very excited about is called the Parkside Precise Plan. Mm-hmm. So with that, we've hired a consultant to reach out to the community and create the community's vision for what it wants to see for the entryway to our city.
So it's largely an underutilized parcel of land. It's pretty substantial size, as I recall. So there's an opportunity there because it's land that's not being heavily used in any other way right now, right?
Well, so this is the entryway to central Brisbane,
right? Not
the Baylands. And we could talk about the Baylands.
We'll get that in a
absolutely.
second. No, I'm thinking of once you've made the left turn into Brisbane.
So you make that turn into Brisbane, into central Brisbane, you come in on Old County Road.
Right.
To the west is our beautiful park, central Brisbane, San Bruno Mountain. It doesn't get any better than that. It's absolutely gorgeous. But if you look towards the east on Old County Road, you see an old warehouse, a vacant lot. And you wonder, well, what's going on here? How come there's this this difference. So back in the day, that area that is on the other side of Old County Road used to be part of the county. And so the county and the city, they didn't really get along very well with each other. And so there wasn't, that collaboration for planning. So now we have this opportunity to right a wrong and create the entryway to our town that represents the city's vision while also upholding the state's requirements to build housing. And so we're looking at doing a zoning overlay of the commercial warehouses that are there to mixed use and affordable housing, and tying it to great recreational opportunities like the park. We have a new skate park that we're building, a basketball court, transportation, retail, shops, restaurants, and then it's right next to City Hall.
So it sort of expands the downtown, that sort of city core, as a sense of place for people.
Absolutely. And so the goal is to create the new development while also maintaining the character. And so the best way to have a development that really represents the people is that you have to engage the people.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we did this thing called a pop-up workshop, and it was fabulous. So we closed down Old County Road for 3 hours, and we had, I would say, about 250 to 300 people come down, and we had these signboards, and people were posting their comments and providing feedback. We had a clown and some music and food, and
Was
really,
the clown running for president? Never mind, we won't get into that right now.
And really made it a fun project. But it was also important because we were gathering data, and we've done another workshop, and we'll do another one after we take in all the data. And so from there, we'll be able to come up with a precise plan that provides the city's vision and design guidelines, and also provide assurances to the developer. Okay, if I'm going to invest in Brisbane, I see that I need to design my project to fit within your guidelines. And by doing that, then you streamline the process to move the project forward.
So what's the timeline for this? I mean, at what point could we expect to see construction start or something get finished up there?
So we're hoping to have the plan in place sometime this year. Now, these are all private property, so it's really up to the market. But so we've increased the value of the land. Here's the commercial value, and here's the residential cost or value. So there's quite a bit of an incentive. Though, of course, we're not going to give it all to the developer.
Right.
We're also going to create a community benefit zone. And so maybe one of the community benefits might be additional affordable housing than what we already asked for in our affordable housing ordinance.
It's interesting to me, for decades, cities on the peninsula didn't gain population. And now we're seeing all these plans similar to what Brisbane's talking about. They have the unique character of each city, but there'll be growth in the city's population of significance for the first time in many, many years. It must be a little unsettling because it does threaten to change if you're not careful.
Yes. We've already gone through that. So we just built the last home on the Northeast Ridge. And so when that project was coming before the people, say 20 years ago, there was that concern. Okay, we're going to add all these additional units. It's going to double the size of the town. These folks aren't going to be like us. And and all those things were just, it had no substance. And people that live in the Northeast Ridge, they are just as much as a Brisbanean as the folks that live in central Brisbane. They care about the mountain, they care about community, they want their kids to get a great education in our schools, and they volunteer, just like anybody else. And so I think when you break down those barriers and you understand, okay, well, if housing should be for our sons and daughters. It should be for our seniors that would want to downsize but still stay in Brisbane. People that work in Brisbane, we want them to live here as well. And so I think when you change your approach,
right,
then it calms people down. And then you start to build community.
So all the outreach was really to try and address those very concerns of what it means to be a Brisbanean. I'd never heard that word before.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the Baylands, because it's another piece of property a lot of people are aware of, and people outside your own city often make plans for that property that they don't bother to check with the city about. But tell me what's going on in terms of what your vision is for the Baylands.
Sure. So the location is absolutely amazing. So you have San Francisco to the north, the biotech capital to the south. Highway 101 runs along the east side of the site. Mm-hmm. It's 660 acres. Now it's pretty much barren land because it's contaminated.
Right.
Half of it is San Francisco's old dump. The other half is an old Southern Pacific rail yard.
Right.
But it's got Caltrain running right through the middle of it. And so, to me, transportation is going to be the driver of this site. It's pretty much owned by one developer, Universal Paragon Corporation. Mm-hmm. The company's based out of China. Mm-hmm. And so we're in the process right now of the Planning Commission doing their deliberations, and we'll be giving a recommendation to the council in regards to the EIR and land use policy probably within a month or so. And then during the summer, the council will conduct its hearings on the EIR and land use policy.
Is it sort of open what could happen there? Is there a wide range of things that could happen there, or are there some pretty clear and evident parameters about what the city wants there?
So the city of Brisbane, we're a very involved community. And we don't just take development lightly. We get into the weeds. And I'm really proud of our community for doing that. And so we have a specific plan from the developer. The city also has a couple alternatives. We also have an alternative energy plan that we're studying. But when you look at a 660-acre site, it doesn't matter how big your city is. That's a big project,
yes.
Right? It's giant. It's the largest project in San Mateo County. And so to prepare for that, to do it right, to really make a difference, we decided that we would create a sustainability framework. And so we formed this committee, and I was lucky enough to be the chair of it. And so to help the committee come up with a game plan for how to create sustainable development. And so we reached out to this consulting firm that helped us formulate a vision using bioregionals, One Planet Living, 10 principles.
Wow.
And so by having those 10 principles, it made it actually very easy to fill in the blanks of what you want to see in a development. And so, I'd love to, just talk a little bit about that, because it's not a plan, it's a framework. So it's really aspirational. It's about these goals. And so, I talked about transportation. So currently we have a train station out at the Baylands, mm-hmm. but it's really just a skeleton
right.
of a station. And so if you really want to utilize transportation to its fullest, you move the station to the south. Mm-hmm. We have Geneva Avenue that dead ends at Bayshore, so it tees right there.
Right.
So we want to bring Bayshore all the way across to the 101, so providing that east-west connectivity. Then, you have your multimodal station mm-hmm. right on Geneva, so that you get the BRT, you get Caltrain. Our goal is to hopefully have 3rd Street Light Rail come down to the multimodal station, have free shuttle, and have a bicycle sharing program. Then partner with the private sector to perhaps have retail, hotel, and entertainment all under one roof. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you will not find anywhere, in this country. But we could do it here in Brisbane, and then have that be the epicenter of the development, have a half-mile radius of a variety of uses around it. Now you're talking.
Yeah, it's ambitious, but what the heck, why not? We're out of time.
Okay.
Brisbane Mayor Cliff Lentz, thanks for being with us on San Mateo County Today. And thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Simon, substituting for Marshall Wilson. We'll see you next time on San Mateo County Today.